The Paraná Delta in northeastern Argentina is an unforgiving landscape. It is a sprawling labyrinth of deep mud, dense thickets, and choked waterways that severely restrict human foot traffic. For generations, locals have largely avoided the deeper marshes. The region is steeped in indigenous Carindi folklore and modern ghost stories, with frequent reports of glowing orbs known as luz mala and unexplained engine failures stalling out cars in the middle of the night. Those exact stories drew the attention of Argentine filmmaker Sergio Nospiller in 2016. He was scouting the treacherous terrain, looking for an isolated location to shoot a supernatural horror film. While scanning satellite imagery to map out potential shooting sites, he stumbled across a physical anomaly he named El Ojo, or the Eye. He abandoned his movie project entirely to investigate. In an environment defined by chaotic, sprawling overgrowth, finding an object with such precise geometric symmetry suggests a source outside the natural order. El Ojo consists of a circular island floating inside a matching, perfectly circular lake. It is a nested geometry that appears almost flawlessly symmetrical from the air. The landmass exhibits a peculiar behavior. It continuously rotates clockwise on its own axis. Reaching these coordinates on foot proved to be an ordeal. Early expeditions failed when the team sank into the unstable mud and became trapped in walls of sharp blackberry bushes. When a team finally arrived at the site, they found physical conditions that contradicted the surrounding environment. The water ringing El Ojo was freezing and crystal clear compared to the warm, sediment-heavy delta, and the island's ground felt incredibly hard, easily supporting human weight. This mismatch between the island's rigid geometry and the chaotic patterns of the wetland fueled theories that the site had been artificially constructed. Nospiller launched a Kickstarter campaign to study the anomaly via submarine and drone. After funding failed, the internet filled the data vacuum with theories of UFO bases, Nazi bunkers, and dimensional portals. Geologically, the island is an embalsado, a dense mat of floating vegetation, peat, and intertwined roots. Over several decades, accumulating wind-blown dust has compacted its surface into a walkable soil. Decaying organic matter generates methane pockets, building pressure directly beneath the peat layer. Reaching a critical threshold, the bubble bursts, shearing a circular lid straight out of the vegetation. That severed mass then settles back into the newly created pool. This explosive swamp gas dynamic demonstrates that natural geological violence can leave behind pristine, symmetrical artifacts. But the formation of the circle is only the first half of the mystery. We still have to account for the continuous kinetic energy required to keep a 100-meter island constantly spinning. The subterranean aquifer spring hypothesis identifies a likely engine for this rotation. Cold water suggests the island sits above an active groundwater spring. Upwelling water generates a localized vortex, creating a slow clockwise torque. Spinning relentlessly, this rotational shear acts like a natural lathe. Friction shaves off protruding roots, forcing both margins into nested symmetry. This process occurs elsewhere in nature. The Westbrook ice disk in Maine was carved into a symmetrical, rotating circle by these identical fluid dynamics. While rare, circular floating vegetation islands appear in specific wetland conditions around the world, proving that nature can produce these shapes without human intervention. El Ojo's geometry is the product of continuous mechanical friction. Its shape is being actively sculpted by its own movement. El Ojo operates on the finite geological timeline. The same friction that gives the island its perfect shape is also slowly destroying it. With every rotation, a tiny amount of organic material is scraped away, subjecting the landmass to continuous erosion. Eventually, the island will shrink significantly. As it loses mass and rotational momentum, it will drift, stop spinning, and permanently anchor its roots to the swamp wall. If the mechanics of this island are explained by basic physics, we have to ask why the first human instinct jumped to UFO bases and divine portals. The human brain is hardwired to associate perfect geometry and symmetry with artificial intent. When we find these structures in the wilderness, our minds struggle to accept them as random, triggering a supernatural alarm. El Ojo is a blind natural machine made of mud, roots, and water, a reminder that natural systems produce highly structured engineering without human intervention.